That's what I'm saying.
And I think there's a couple principles that I like to adhere to, and the first is that you need to show up with genuine curiosity in your heart.
Yep.
And what we know is that with too many salespeople, they listen to respond, right? They're waiting, they're chomping at the bit because they'll hear one thing in their ear, it'll go in the ear, and then they're already forming the words in their brain and in their mouths before the other person is even done explaining what they were trying to explain. And so being genuinely curious leads me to the next principle, and that's you've got to make people feel both heard and understood. And that requires listening skills and being present like all the way, not making judgments, just taking and asking the right questions and then listening for the answer. And I think that those are some of the foundational, the skills on that road to building that trust and building that rapport. So I agree with you on that. That's
Welcome to the Sharpen the Spear podcast, where we help home service pros cut through the noise, sharpen their business tools, and reclaim the profit, freedom, and impact they've been missing. I'm your host, Richard Walsh, Profit Freedom Coach, and I'm here to help you stop grinding and start growing. Let's sharpen the spear. And we are back on STS, Sharpen the Spear podcast with, you guessed it again, another incredible guest. I've got Tim Barry with us today, and Tim, no one knows Tim as well as Tim. So Tim, give us the backstory, bring us up to speed, and we're going to tear into the conversation.
Richard. I just want to thank you first of all for having me on, and I'm really looking forward to this. I've listened to several of your other podcasts, and you seem to have some high quality guests. So I'm wondering what the hell I'm doing on here. But that said, my name is Tim Barry. I own a Sandler training franchise in Fort Worth, Texas, and I'm a lifelong entrepreneur. I started my first business when I was 14 years old, and I've been self-employed for 42 years now, since I'm 56. And I've been there, done it. I've been there in the operational side and the financial side. I've been all over the place because as an entrepreneur, but my real passion has always been connecting with people, leading them, and selling. Selling is just for me the best thing ever. So that's me in a nutshell. Serial entrepreneur, and now I help other business people scale through sales training and leadership training.
Yeah, and this is why I want you on here. Okay, we're not going to call it charity. Okay, you're a good guest too, so charity comes later. But really, when we talk about sales, it's a huge component to any business. Okay, your business is your economic engine. Sales is the fuel. Okay, you can put more fuel in, you can up the horsepower, you can dial it back, you can do all that with your sales. That alone. Okay, yeah, we know there's marketing, we're knowing all the other stuff, right? We get it, but bare bones, you get down to it. This is why I always tell people, Tim, like, and you've probably heard this before. It's like the Harvard Business Review says the number one reason businesses fail is undercapitalization. But it's not, is it? It's they don't
No,
sell enough product at a high enough price,
no,
right? That's what they do. You can't sell. That's why you fail. Stop blaming it on money. It's
yeah,
your it's your own inability to make money and sell
yeah,
stuff, right?
1000%, 1000%. It's something. Sales is a weird thing because when I'm training salespeople, I'll in class number one in my recurring training, I'll say, okay, I'm gonna say a word, and I want you to blurt out the first thing off the top of your head. And I'll say salesperson. And inevitably, when I say salesperson, even to you, what's the first thing that comes to mind for you?
Slime.
Slime, manipulative, right? Joey Isuzu, right? You think
Yeah,
of
yeah.
the people that are trying to manipulate you and to get you to do what they want you to do. And we've all been burned by unscrupulous salespeople, and that's kind of why I enjoy it. I subscribe to the philosophy that sales can be every bit as noble a profession as being an engineer or an educator or an attorney or uh, you know uh, a, a, a someone that works in the theater. I mean, there's a lot of dignity in all of those,
Mm.
but sales is the one that has the negative connotation because we've struggled with being manipulated ourselves, right? So I call it salesperson on salesperson hate. So
Yeah, it's really it's true. Everyone's got this. They've all got their experience, right? And that's what most people draw on. But true selling is serving. It's really serving. Like you're really serving someone. And now, for me, and we'll probably get into this in more depth in a little bit, but just it's first you have to like believe in your product or service, right? But it really is that's part of it. But we're going to get into the aspect of like for me, a big thing is relationship, right? Like selling, because I always remind people, listen, people only 3% of the population, anyone calling you is ready to buy right now. Okay, I mean now, like there's only so you got 97% of the people you've got to court, right? There's a sales cycle, there's a process you have to go through. And, I tell people those numbers, Tim, and it's like, they don't really. I go, well, think about it. Like, who do you sell like when you first talk to them? Like, most people have either a high ticket item or whatever this, I don't care if it's cutting your grass. It's like you don't get hired. You come out and you talk to them, then they want to get two bids and they want to do this and this, right? So it's seldom do you get the close. I mean, you obviously that happens, but it's kind of interesting. So like that's what I want to look at, right? Because that's where real salesmanship comes in. It isn't the simple close. Those are layups. They're going to buy no matter. You could have, whatever, half a face, and they don't care. They're going to buy the thing from you, right? So let's talk about that.
what's the old adage? Stop clock is right twice a day, right?
That's right. That's
And
right.
and anybody can close a layup. It's a layup.
Yeah.
It's going to happen almost no matter what. Would have been that. So with Sharpen the Spear, you've interviewed tons and tons of people. Uh, what makes you feel connected as the podcast, or what makes you feel connected? In a conversation, not just in a podcast, but in a sales scenario.
Yeah, I think there's alignment. I think there's rapport. Like rapport is kind of the umbrella. Everyone wants to build rapport. Some people suck at it. Okay.
Yep.
And it's forced and they're punching the button, they're checking the boxes, you know what I mean? But there's an authenticity, like when I interview people, we talk before the show or whatever it is, and then we're aligned as we speak and we share in the conversation. It'd be one thing if you got on and like, let me ask you my 6 questions and you give me 6 answers. I've been on those.
Yeah.
Okay. Hate them.
Yep.
Hate them. Terrible. Okay. There's like, I could have sent a video, with the answers.
Right.
Thank you for that. Next question, So to me, it is that connecting. It's that again, that relational connection, that alignment for me, that's really where it's at. That's when you need, well, the know, like, trust, right? I got to
Yep.
know you. Now I know you. Now, do I like you? Okay. Trust is whatever that looks like. And they have all different things for that third position, but
Of course.
that's what I'm saying.
And I think there's a couple principles that I like to adhere to, and the first is that you need to show up with genuine curiosity in your heart.
Yep.
And what we know is that with too many salespeople, they listen to respond, right? They're waiting, they're chomping at the bit because they'll hear one thing in their ear, it'll go in the ear, and then they're already forming the words in their brain and in their mouths before the other person is even done explaining what they were trying to explain. And so being genuinely curious leads me to the next principle, and that's you've got to make people feel both heard and understood. And that requires listening skills and being present like all the way, not making judgments, just taking and asking the right questions and then listening for the answer. And I think that's those are some of the foundational, the skills on that road to building that trust and building that rapport. So I agree with you on that. That's a great observation.
Yeah, I was the listening to respond guy, like you described. I'm ready. I'm going to put it between your eyes. Right. I'm going to show you why you're wrong. I was that. I did in a lot of areas. And I kind of, you know what got me, you know what made me a good listener?
What's that?
Podcasting. Because I've done a couple hundreds, almost 300 episodes with guests.
Yeah,
Like I had to learn how to listen because I don't know you. I
right.
know you're an expert in this. I'm not an expert in that. So I'm listening and I have to like, okay, then I tie in the experience and a question to follow up or, an aligned experience with that. So I got really good at it. And you can ask my wife. I'm much better listening now than I used to be.
Yeah,
I was a really terrible listener. Okay. So that tool, podcasting, really improved those listening skills. So I had a worthy response. You know what I mean? Like it couldn't just be what I
right.
think, right? So I love it. I love it just for that, and so many other things. But yeah,
Well, another thing you do is you make things conversational, and so it's not like you don't have six questions stocked,
no.
locked, and loaded, and that comes out even in your podcast. So again, I'm not trying to get off of task here, but yeah, I think that's part of building that rapport is that alignment that you were talking about in the beginning. That makes a ton of sense.
Yeah, I don't prep. Okay, totally transparent. I don't do any prep for my podcast.
Yeah,
I just get on. Like I always tell people, I don't know if I ever said this on the podcast. So like I choose someone like you, Tim. I see your bio, you got all your stuff, your one sheet. Okay, cool. This guy looks awesome. Hey, be on my show. And you say, okay, I'll be on your show. And then I forget all about Tim Barry. Okay. Until like 5 minutes before we get on, I go, oh yeah, him. Okay. And we get on and we do this thing and it's awesome. It has
yeah,
to be authentic. I have no other option.
yeah,
Okay.
1000%.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
it's
well,
fun. And that's sales, man.
it
You don't
is.
know these people. You know nothing. They're a complete stranger. So I guess that kind of works. What a
Yeah,
nice segue. Was that a good segue?
it was a
That's
spectacular.
awesome.
That was so good. Oh my goodness, so good. It's like you've done this 300 other times.
That's right. That's right. Boom.
Goodness.
No, so like go down, just let's keep going down kind of the sales road here. So we start with authenticity. You want to be genuine, you want to be the quality listener, right? You want to be listening because the reality is they're going to tell you what they want and what they don't want. Okay? And that is a tool. They're handing you a tool, right? I don't know if you think about I'm like, "Oh, you're giving me something to use to fix this.
Yes.
Fix the problem of them not having what they need or want." And now you're giving me the tools to help work on on the solution, which is kind
Right.
of cool.
Yeah, I think the first step is obviously that building trust piece, the
Mhm.
alignment, the rapport. Uh, what I teach salespeople is next you've got to worry about gaining equal business stature because there's a game that prospects play with the salespeople that they deal with, right? And it's not because they're insidious or mean. It's because they've been burned before by unscrupulous salespeople. And the game that they play, as I identify it, is there's four steps to it. One is they will bring you a symptom of something that's annoying them, and then they will feign interest. That's step number one. So feigning interest. Number two is they want to extract out every solution that salesperson can think of and get trigger that salesperson into presentate what we call presentation mode, right? They want free consulting. Number three is that then they're going to avoid committing to anything. And then the fourth step that the prospect deploys is then they will ghost you, which means that they will give you unlimited access to their voicemail for 365 days a year, right? So they don't tell you the whole problem. They get all your information. They avoid making a commitment, and then they run away because they got what they want, right? They feel fixed, and that's the dance because in a traditional sales world, the traditional salespeople are looking around the office for anything that they can find a commonality with. Oh, you ran a half marathon too, like me. Oh goodness, can't we be friends now? Like, oh, there's bonding and rapport. And then because typically salespeople have been trained to present product and features and benefits, they start feature and benefit dumping right at the same time when the prospect is trying to steal all the information, right? Now, the third step for the traditional salesperson is to overcome objections and go for the close. And then the fourth step is they chase. So those four things, when you line those things up, it's like going on a terrible date, right? You go on that first date and he or she just talks about themselves the whole time. They got the free dinner and then they bounce. You don't even get a good night kiss out of it, right? And that's the game that gets played too often. And so I teach people, like, you got to show up in your genuine, authentic self. You've got to be curious, but then you've got to gain equal business stature by making what you meet about them. Figure out what they want to talk about and then talk about that. Like, your role is as a salesperson is to ask the right questions and then shut up and listen to the answers, right? And so that's kind of that's the genesis of how to get in the door and really distinguish yourself as a sales pro.
You know what's interesting about that, Tim, is because the first description, right? Doing all that stuff, that's what makes you hate being a salesman. Okay, because you're doing it that way and you don't know. You just who could do this? This is the worst. It's like trying to sell cars or whatever. And it's like I love that you said that, because like if you want to sell and if you want to make like real money, I'm telling you, get into sales.
Yes.
Okay, because if you take training like from someone like you or you listen to this kind of stuff, only 10% of all salesmen actually make any money. Okay, 90% of people are just abysmal failures. Okay, because they're doing either what they're told, they never train, they never try to improve themselves, they never do any of that kind of stuff. So you think about that. If I go into a room and there's 10 people, I can be the only guy who makes money. That's pretty cool. Okay, so, that's like stealing everyone's lunch. You know what I mean? Like, I'm going to eat for a long time. It's going to be great. So I just really like that, because when you think about it, and if people just take like, what was your best sales experience as a consumer? I do it with people all the time. Who is your with my client, business clients? Who is your best customer? Tell me about them. And they tell me this and this, and they paid on time, and they didn't argue, and they blah blah. It's just a beautiful thing. I go, wouldn't it be great to serve only those kind of people?
Yes.
Yeah. I go, okay, well, that's what we're gonna do.
100%.
Okay? That's what we're going to focus on. You don't deal with that person. There's plenty of people you can say no to.
Yes.
If you've been in sales, you've been told no.
Yes.
What is it? 100,000 times we've been told no by the time we're 18 or something like that. Some crazy number. I think I have 6 kids, so I've said it 600,000 times. Okay, I've said no to them. Okay, so it's a lot of knowing going on in the house, right? So. But I just love the fact that, like, if you can change your approach, right, and you're given specific steps, right, that authenticity, that relationship. What I learned was, like, I am just like, I can take you or leave you. I'm not so like I don't give, I don't care, but I'm like, I'm just good. I'm just here to help you.
Right.
It's like if we get to the sale, we'll get to the sale.
Yep.
Now my goal is to get to the sale. Don't get me wrong. Okay, my goal is to close the deal. Like when I had a roofing business. Okay, I'm selling a roof. Well, my goal is to go do my thing and close the deal.
Right.
Where other guys are leaving for a week or two and sending an estimate.
Yeah.
Yeah, we don't, homie, don't play that.
Yeah.
Okay, we lay it out. I do the whole process, right? But I close the deal. So, yeah, I love it. I love it. So when you're taking people through this process, is this, and I'm just looking for, is this like eye-opening for people? If they've been doing it, let's say they did it the wrong way, and then you're showing them this stuff, is this like light bulb stuff? Or they're like, oh, yeah, I guess that would work?
It's a great question. And I don't know if there's a perfect answer, but I'll give it my best. I believe that what I teach is formulaic. There's step 1 through step 7. And there is a way to do it, but that's intellectual sales training. Uh, and anybody, I can give you a book on Amazon written by David H. Sandler. It's one of the greatest sales the books that ever written, called "You Can't Teach a Kid to Ride a Bike at a Seminar." Right? That's the whole Sandler thing. However, there is a difference between the intellectual understanding of what it's supposed to sound like and the artful application of it in a conversation. And so there are a lot of aha moments that the client will get as they execute the process itself. And it comes, it's like 4th of July fireworks, right? You're going to see all kinds of pops and booms in their eyes, but it happens differently for everyone. Some people are going to be more natural, like you and I, probably in the scale of being able to read people and connect with them quickly. We have a pretty natural skill that we trend to do that easier than a lot of people, right? Maybe we'll struggle on another area. So it depends on the individual client. But the answer to the question is there will be a series of fireworks that'll go off in people's heads as they get it. Because like I said, you can know it intellectually very quickly, but being able to artfully apply it in a conversation where it doesn't feel like somebody's reading a checklist to you, that's the hard part. Does that make sense?
Oh, totally. It's role play.
Yes.
It's scenarios, man. It's role play. Let's put people in it. I always encourage a lot of my business like coach when they're in the hiring process. It's all scenario based. Come on, you two come up here. You're the customer. You're this. Oh, you got. Oh, we're battling for the customer service position. All right, here comes the call. You be the customer. You be the customer service. Neither one knows what each other's going to say. They get to make it up as they go and see how they handle it, while the rest of the group watches.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
right, and then you see what happens, right? Oh, you
Oh,
said you had a lot of customer service experience. You had no reply. I guess you lied to me. Okay, so but the role play I do it in training. I do it in leadership training. Same thing. Like here's conflict resolution, all that, right? It's all sales. Conflict resolution. You got some guy who's ticked off here, and you're over here. Like, dude, it's sales time. You're gonna sell them on calming down. Don't kill this person. Like the whole thing is that. So like that's what I mean. We talked about in the beginning. Like you're always selling. Like you really need to embrace. Like, man, I'm married. I did some selling. 3 hours a day for like 3 months straight. I'm hanging out chatting on my wife before our first date, and then we got married a few months later. I'm worse. I got engaged over the counter. We hadn't even been on a date. Okay. And I'm like, you got to trade up. Okay. And that's what I did. Okay. So like hardcore. Okay. I like, it was like, wow, that's crazy. And 26 years later, we're still married. So it worked, but it's always selling. You just are in every aspect, and in business, especially. I don't care if it's a formal, I'm trying to get this job from someone. Like it's just with your vendors. Selling. You want to serve me? You want to do this? Maybe you're negotiating, right? Same principle, right? So there's all these elements throughout your daily life, especially as a business owner, that you can experience this stuff and apply these same tools, right?
Right. Yeah. I think the misnomer is that sales is something that you do to people. Like, oh, I'm a salesman. I'm a saleswoman, right? And if you really look at what sales is, it's human interaction, it's human psychology, it's communication. That's what it is. It's the give and take of artful conversations to a meaningful end, right? You don't, I tell people this: the job of the professional salesperson is to qualify the qualified prospect quickly, and it's also to disqualify the unqualified prospects equally as quickly, right? Unless you really need extra friends, which I don't need extra friends.
Yeah,
so
I'm good.
Yeah, I'm good. I'm good. But the point being the same is that it should be to a meaningful end. And so, when you align on that equal business stature piece, when you agree to set a mutually agreed upon agenda for what you're going to talk about in your sales appointment, and it's centered around the prospect's interests, right? Now the salesperson can kind of settle in and just ask the right questions. And if you've asked for permission to ask, and I always say this, you ask for permission to ask questions, not to be nosy, but because you want to get beyond just the fluff of the symptom that the prospect brings to you, right? When a CEO says, "Oh, we missed our second quarter revenue goals," right? That's a symptom. Like, I need to ask questions like, why did that happen? What are you doing? What did you do to try to fix that? When did you notice this? What's going on here? And I need to really get deep, and I can't be hesitant. I can't be a coward. I have to go deep with them, but I've got to get that permission first. And so again, here goes back to the first thing we started talking about. You got to build alignment and trust. You got to gain that equal business stature, which means getting permission to ask tons of questions, and then talk about what they want to talk about and do it in a correct, meaningful way. And to me, that's the beautiful symphony of sales.
Yeah, like that CEO when they miss those numbers. You see, so if this happens again, what's the repercussions? What's the outcome? Like, so, okay, you miss your numbers, so what? So what? No, I don't know. Well, tell me more. And they start. I like to take them down the pain trail for a little bit. Let them sit in the pain and then bring them back and roll them back. Like, I just need to know. Like, that's how you qualify, right? Like, okay, this is real pain. This isn't some guy. Yeah, it's good. No one cares. Well, okay, and you get that right. And everyone, and like you said in the beginning too, this is something I want to hit right now. Is there's a saying is buyers are liars. We've all heard that. So they're going to tell you stuff that may or may not be true. Okay. And so you're going to go with all this kind of stuff. And I learned this really cool little thing. And when I'm talking to someone, they're telling me something, I just got the 3 words. Tell me more. And you just take them down that and either can expose the lie or you get to the truth.
Yes.
Because all I have to say is tell me more. And I can do that a couple times in a row. And they got to keep going. And you're the listener, right? Because listening is a silent form of flattery. Right?
100%.
So we're going to sit here and tell me more. And I'm making notes. Okay. Now the onion's being peeled back. Right. So I learned a couple really good things, Tim, like little things like that. Like you think like everything is all complicated. I'm like, no, those 3 words, because I have another couple words that are really good too, I'll tell you. But that tell me more. I'm like, that changed a lot for me. I'm like, because man, are they people want to talk to someone.
Well, but Richard, you think about this. You're getting them when you ask them for more detail. You're getting them to sometimes say something that has been clanking around in their head that they've never said out loud before. Right? You want them to defend, justify, and explain the statement that they made, and I'm not in a confrontational way, but you want them to like think out loud. Yep. And so that tell me more strategy is the beginning of the way that in the world of Sandler, the very first thing that we'll say, okay, where do you want to start? What do you want to talk about first? Oh, I want to talk about missing first quarter sales. Okay, cool. Tell me more about that. And then it's game on from there. Then it's a series of, a dozen questions or whatever to get to that root cause. And that's where by the time you've realized you've got legitimate pain, you understand that they've got a visceral, sometimes they'll even curse. They'll say, well, what are you going to do about that? What if you don't fix that? And they'll be like, gosh damn it, I'm whatever, or whatever, gee golly willikers, whatever it is, right? For whatever a swear is for them. Yeah. And when you've got a real pain when you get a strong statement out of them. Yeah. So yeah, that's the most important piece. too many times in that kind of that buyer seller game that I explained before, the salesperson is going to chomp like a Doberman on a bone. They're going to chomp on that bone. The first little indication that there's any pain at all, they're going to start prematurely jumping into their shtick, right, and start talking about how they can fix that problem. And that's a terrible thing. It's like going to the hospital, and you've got a dislocated shoulder, and the ER nurse starts looking at your knees, and it's like,
Right.
Hold on, wait, that's not even close to what the real issue is. Why are you not doing normal protocols for triaging an emergency room patient? It's the same thing in sales. Why the heck would why would you start prematurely yapping like a chihuahua when there's no basis for it? You have no idea if you can help that person yet. So
Yeah, exactly. I'll go back to even podcasting. I'll be a guest on someone's show, and we're talking. I'm sharing my story. I'm talking about this, and then they'll say something, and they'll reveal something to me about me because they're listening to me, and I'm like, oh, I never thought of that. I guess I do kind of respond to that. It's like really cool. I mean,
yeah,
then I go, oh, I'm gonna have to use that now because that is, you just explain. Wow, you're like a therapist. I'm
yeah,
like, oh, I get it. That's why. That's why I always did that. It was really cool. You know what I mean? Like sometimes you just get something as simple as that. Okay, he's not selling me, not doing. We're just having a conversation. But like, this is the exchange of ideas in a conversation. Like
yes,
you're saying, I like that. There's actually somewhere to go in the sales. I'm air quoting sales conversation. You and I could talk philosophy, okay, and we can spend an hour and we can go back and forth, and it will never come to a conclusion. And then it's okay because it's philosophy, and that's been going on for thousands of years, right? So that ain't sales. Okay, we need an intentional outcome, right? But it's how you get there. That's the magic,
you bet,
And when you get there, when you close the deal, you get the ink, as they say, right? That's effective selling.
you bet.
And you're both happy. It's like I have a contractor I coach and stuff, and people talk about he's, hey, it's a 200,000 remodel, whatever, this kind of stuff, and they say, well, I got this guy. Well, what's the difference with you and them? And he's like, well, when we get done, we'll still like each other. I'm like, dude, that is the greatest. That is one of those things. And he's got the Southern accent and a smile. And I'm like, dude, that's gold. Like, use that. Like, it's just because everybody knows, everyone's had a construction experience, and there's a whole lot of hate. Okay. During that process, I've been through, but like he says that, I'm like, dude, it's just everyone just kind of, that's cool. Yeah,
Love that.
I want to work with you.
It's fun because I spent over a decade as a contractor. I owned a bunch of construction companies in Chicago. I built custom homes. I had a window roofing and siding company, and I owned a basement waterproofing company. And that was one of the things, people, I was able to distinguish myself and sold millions and millions of dollars of stuff because, I was real. I was for real with them. I was genuine. I was authentic. I was curious. And I love that answer that Kat had you. Hey, how do you know, yeah, we'll like each other when we're done. And that was literally what it was. Cause you know this as you spent time in the contracting world, you knew who you were going to run into that was going to be a colossal pain in the rear
That's
end.
right.
And so you ran from those. I always ran from those because if somebody was going to nitpick me to death over something stupid in the interview stage of the sales process, I knew they were going to be a nightmare to deal with, when we were doing all the work of the house too. So
Yeah, we can smell them, right? I mean,
oh,
after a while, it's like I even was at the point where I'd send checks back because they would like alter the contract, send a deposit. I'm like,
no,
oh,
nope,
cool. Put it right back in his envelope, put it in him and send it. And they go, what are you doing? I go, I know you're an attorney. You don't get to change my contract.
yes,
Okay, this is a very complicated job. And if you're doing that now, this is only going to get worse.
yes,
So here's your $20,000 check. I go, yeah, I'm good. You have a great day.
Nope,
Okay. There ain't enough money in the world to deal with a guy like you. Because when
nope,
you get done
20
with that
grand.
job, he'll sue you. Okay.
Yeah,
That's
yes. It could be 220 grand and he would still
yep.
cause you,
Yep.
he'd cause you to sweat. Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy. Yeah, so that alone, when you talk about authenticity, selling, conversation, everything else, and still sticking to the outcome, too many people do what I call the show up and throw up. Okay.
Yeah.
It's too much talking. It's too much conversation. Now you're getting into life stories and the little old lady's telling you this and about her great grand, and you're like, ooh, like there's a fine line where you got to steer the ship. Okay. Like you got to be careful because all of a sudden your 35-minute deal is like an hour and a half and you're calling your next appointment. You know the drill. But is let's talk about that a little bit because that control. We've talked about the authenticity, right? The genuineness. We're listening to tell me more. We've got all that, but man, this is the challenge that I see with the sales guys. They're and I'll put it under the blanket. All that stuff we just said. They're selling too much.
Yeah.
They're not closing.
Yeah.
Okay, you do all this, but you got to get to the close, man. Like
Yes.
this is where they drop the ball. I see.
Well, I think what I teach in the Sandler methodology is very Socratic in nature. And what I mean by Socratic in nature is it's about building trust, gaining equal business stature, and then qualifying the snots out of the prospect by asking the right questions. The interesting thing is that not at any point yet with trust, gaining equal business stature, or examining their pain, is the salesperson allowed to start presenting, right? That would be premature presentation, is what we call that. But the other two pieces of the Sandler puzzle that the salesperson is to execute before presenting anything is they've got to have the budget conversation for investment and then understand the decision making process that the prospect is going to deploy. And only then is the salesperson to present anything. And then it's only to the things that they discovered in the previous 5 steps. So while that may sound very intellectual, the art form is being able to, is to conduct that symphony with 100 pieces of, 100 different musicians. That's the art form that I'm talking about. And that's the stuff that makes sales magical to me is getting all parts of that symphony going at the same time to make some beautiful music. Because once you do present, you're presenting to close. Like it's under the premise, the explicit understanding that the prospect is going to make a no or a yes decision. And if they feel like there's a fit then and there, it's time to do business or to not. And that's a pretty liberating way to do things. But again, I know that I may have just fast forwarded through some things, but there's a lot to it. There's a
Yeah.
lot of trust that goes into building that.
Yeah. So I'm going to jump on. This is really important. The budget. Okay. This budget question. I get this and I do seminars all the time. Do a lot with contractors, right? So we all know that whole thing, So, everyone's like afraid to ask for the budget. It's like this is a qualifier. I'm talking they've called on the phone. Okay, and describing what they want, and everyone's like, "Well, I don't ask them. I don't want to share that with you because I'm getting bids." I'm like, "Well, so how do you respond?" Oh, okay, I'll just come and spend 2.5 hours building an estimate for you, and then whatever, and it's gonna, and so you got to like come up with ways to respond, and little things like, well, it would be more helpful in the estimate process if we have a general range, because you're telling me what you want, so our range is generally between X and Y. Okay, is that gonna work in your
Right.
mind? Right. So they'll say, yeah, okay, that's good. Oh, no, we're looking for, okay, well, there's no way we can do that for that. So we're probably not your contractor.
Yeah.
Okay, you can look for someone else. All that kind of stuff. Or you can be humorous. Okay, so it's like 1.5 million, okay, for the kitchen. And it breaks the ice. No, well, you understand because I want to give you my time.
Right.
I want to spend time. I want to do it right. I want to give you a very detailed estimate. And if I don't know my parameters to work in, I am going to give you $1.5 million kitchen.
You
So
bet.
we do things like that, and on site, same thing. So that money issue is really hard on both ends. Remember, your customer's like, I'm not going to tell him because then he's going to jack it. If I'm high, he's going to charge me that, and he's going to make extra money and whatever. So it's a really tricky. That's a really tricky aspect. But I remember I had one potential client. Okay, we're talking through this thing, and he's writing 16 estimates in a day and everything. So I go, I think that's a lot. He's up till 10:30, been in business 12 years. I'm like, are they all like your ideal customers? Well, I mean, how many of those would you want to do? Like actually as a job? Probably like 4. If I go, well, then why are you spending time on 12 others? Like,
Yes.
what are you doing? I'm like, just ask for the budget. Oh, you can't do that. Well, are you going to not ask to get paid?
Great.
You know,
Yeah. Yeah.
you get down to some basic things that people just don't think about. It's okay. I want to show them how awesome I am first. And then I'll slide it in. And then their jaw drops and they say, I was thinking 20 grand and you're telling me it's 85.
Yeah.
We can't do that. So it's a big thing. I don't know I know you've had similar experiences because we've both been in contracting, and that is a thing.
Yeah. Well, I approach it like this. If you do a good job in building trust, if you gain that equal business stature, if you get permission to talk, for example, about what they want to talk about, you get to express what your role in the conversation is as the salesperson. And so what I'll typically tend to do, I grew up in a household, we're middle class, right? There wasn't tons of money floating around our house, but we weren't eating, oatmeal for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, 7 days a week either. And the stigmas that I grew up with were, it's rude to talk about money, and it's none of your business, right? Those are the things that I grew up with. And so how I got over the budget conversation was I would just ask them permission. I said, hey, in the setting the agenda, when I'll ask them, what are you interested in that would make this meeting that we're going to have next week be unbelievable? What are the top 3 things you want to know? And they'll tell me whatever those are, and we're going to cover most of the meeting is going to be based on that. Then I'll say, okay, here's my role. I'm going to need to ask questions because I want you to think of me like I'm, the doctor, and I can't anticipate or assume anything. So I'm going to need to ask questions. Are you okay with me asking a bunch of questions related to the things you want to talk about? And they'll typically say yes. Say, okay, we're going to also have to talk about what kind of investment it's going to take to solve this problem, and what it would take to get started if we get to that point. Are you okay talking about down the line, 45 minutes from now? Are you okay with, talking budget with me? Like, get it up front, get the permission up front, because it does 2 things. One, it takes all of the pressure off of the prospect because they know they're going to talk about budget. They already said yes to it. And the second thing, it takes all the pressure off of the salesperson because they go, well, hey, about 44 minutes ago, I asked you, I explained my role in this thing, and you said it would be okay to talk about budget. And so here we are, it's budget time, right? And so you can set yourself up for success. This is what you were mentioning before when I'm not setting up to show up and throw up. I'm going to lead this thing all the way through. Now I'm going to do so while the prospect thinks they're actually leading everything, right? And so David Sandler has a saying that executing the Sandler process is giving the illusion of giving up control to the prospect while at the same time gaining maximum control.
Right.
And again, here's the art form because you can do it very clunky. And so you don't want to be a bully or a steamroll your prospect because you'll break trust. So the budget part is always a tough one for a lot of people, and it depends
Right.
on what your own money concept is and what you grew up
Right.
with.
Right. It's so true. It's so exactly true. So I find that a lot of times, in these situations, like you said about gaining control or maintaining control, like what you said, like when you lay out an agenda, okay, and I don't care if I'm doing a PowerPoint, I'm doing a webinar, I'm doing whatever, like here's what we're going to hit. This is what we're going to do. We're going to discuss this and this and this, and then we're going to begin. This is the same principle you're talking about. I'm going to be asking you some questions. Is that okay? You got permission. Now you're in control. Who's ever asking the questions is in control. Okay.
Yep.
Guaranteed. It's like first one to talk loses kind of thing when it comes time for those answers. But like now you're getting them and you just do that and tell me more. And there you are. Now you're in control. Same thing when you're getting to the numbers and everything else and you're actually asking for the sale. Same principle, right? You want to be in that seat. So I find it really fascinating how many people, they're literally doing sales in a sales position, regardless of the product, service, levels, money, everything else. They're just so ill-equipped. Tim, it's like, it's pain. If I had to go sit through that, I just feel so bad for you. I'm like, how long have you been doing this? Like, and then you get the great salesman who like does all the stuff and makes it painless, takes it through. Everything's dialed in. And you go, dude, you're good. And I really enjoyed buying this car from you. Okay. Like, it's a great experience. I will buy more.
Well, and Richard, and you know this, right? You run into that salesperson that you had a great experience with, and you'll tell everyone about that one.
That's right.
Right? Now, I know that there's the statistic that says, if you had a great experience, you'll tell 3 people. If you had a bad one, you'll tell 83 or whatever the heck the number is. It doesn't even matter. But my point is that, when you have the awareness of knowing when you had a great experience with a salesperson, then we know, because we're professionals, to tell lots of people about that one.
Yeah. And here's the thing, Tim, like, think about this. Okay, so I only tell 3 people, but I'm a raving fan. If I send 3 qualified leads to you as the sales dude, you're going to love me forever.
Forever.
Ain't nobody doing that. Okay, so
Forever.
like that's bank.
Yes.
Okay, and that's forget the 83 guy. Well, if you're a horrible salesperson, you're not going to stay in the business anyways. But when you're good, you get it. It's not quantity, it's quality.
100%.
When people come in, they already know you're supposed to be great. It's easier not to disappoint them.
Yeah.
Like they already have an expectation. You just do your process. You have a process. You have a presentation. I think that's one of those things that will hit real quick. Is it really is process and presentation, though. Let's talk about that for a minute. Like, I see too many people, they don't have that. They're just going. Like what I did, I tell people often, I built a flow chart, my sales flow chart, I call it. Okay. And it's in poster size because there's 31 steps. Okay. Like it's the first call all the way till after the service is delivered, the product's delivered, and what that looks like. And if this happens, you go here and this and this and this, right? So I use that mostly for the visual. Like, understand there's a lot going on here. Okay, when you look at this, like, it's not ask and get. Okay, if you think it's ask and get, again, you want to deal with those 3%.
Yeah. Automatically.
So the 97%, you're going to be very poor as a salesperson. Okay, but the other ones, you got to understand process, right? Something has to be in place that people can follow. It's repeatable, duplicatable, right? So the whole team can be measured. Right, we have to have some kind of metric that we're following on these close rates and the presentation and everything else, right?
1,000%. It's salespeople tend to hate CRM. They hate it, right? Mm-hmm. Oh, it's taking me away from what I'm supposed to be doing. But the poor sales manager and the vice president of sales and the business owner, like, they need to know what's in the pipeline and what's like legit and what's not. And if you've got a dozen salespeople, and here's what we know. I can go into any company on the planet, and I call it the 20-60-20 rule. 20% of the people on that team, that sales team, are going to be high performers. 60% are going to be variable performers, and then there's going to be 20% that are like deadwood, that are, for whatever in God's reason, are hanging on for dear life. It's because, you know, it's the brother-in-law, this chairman of the board or whatever, right?
Right.
And the poor sales manager spends 80% of his or her time messing around with trying to rescue the bottom 20%.
Right.
And but when you're following a process, you can hold everyone equally accountable to the process, right? And you can measure that stuff, and it becomes way more predictable in the CRM. You can go, okay, if there's 7 steps in the sales process: bonding and rapport, upfront contract, paying budget decision, presentation, and then post sell, and you're in step number 4, you know exactly when your next meeting is going to be, with who, why, what the agenda is, and what the outcome possibilities are going to be for that next thing, right? It's a duplicable thing. And so everyone, whether it's the top 1%er that's just slaying on the sales side, or the one that's new and struggling to hang on, they know what the process is, and they can follow that and do it over and over and over again. It goes from 12 people doing 12 different things to having 12 people applying the same process in their normal person, right? So to each his own and her own. So some people are more outgoing, some are more introverted, some are task oriented, some are people oriented. You can still use the same process. You just put your own personal stamp on it. That's what it makes it you. And once you've got that process ingrained into your system, it becomes how you communicate for everything. I use the Sandler stuff to, talk to my kids. We want to talk about setting an agenda. When my 16-year-old daughter used to want my car on a Saturday night, I would have to ask her, like, okay, we're going to set expectations. What's the agenda? Where are you going? Who are you going with? Right? What time are you bringing it back? Are you going to bring it back with a bag of McDonald's French fries all over the floor? Are you going to use all my gasoline and not replace it? Like, what's the expectation, right? So you use this in your regular life, and that makes the sales piece, from a sales manager's point of view, this is a dream, because when you're following a process, you can accurately predict your sales, your cash flows, and then you can even base your coaching and your training off of that. Like, hey, there's a particular, which step is this person tripping up on? Is it budget? Are they getting killed in the budget step? And then you can train and role play and stuff to that. So I don't know if that adds any value to your
That's
point.
it.
That's right.
You said all the right things. Way to go. No, but it's really what it is. That is what it's. You can't improve what you don't track or measure. That's it. Like, no one starts out as a great salesman. I always tell people, when you do something new, we all start at the same place. That place is called awful. Okay, that's where we all begin. So the playing field's even. Now what are you going to do? You're going to get to okay, and then better, then much better, then very good, and then excellent, and then a master, or whatever that looks like. Whatever that journey looks like, that's on you. You got to do it. You're going to start at the bottom. You're going to be terrible. But when you have a process, I would do this for roofers, do done for you sales presentations, video, script, here, 7 days. 7 days, I'll have you talking to people, and they think you've been doing this for a decade. Okay, and you're closing deals. So, like, it's amazing. I said, because when I started, all I knew was a roof was on top of a house. Okay, like that was my limited information. Okay, now I got to learn about the whole 7 things it takes to do a roof, right? But like, put this stuff in there and start banging out, like killing it. Okay, just killing it. I'm like, okay, this is easy. Let me do it for others. So I love it. And I want to kind of wrap it up with that, because all these things we heard today that you're talking about, Tim, are all applied to the sales thing, but without a process, without a system, a thing to follow, it's kind of for nothing. You know what I mean? You're not going to, if you're a business owner, which most of our listeners are, you're building a sales team. I don't care if it's 1 or 100 people, like, they've got to have that metric. You can call them on the role play. Well, dude, you're skipping step number 4. How come? Man, they don't really need that. I go, oh, no one told you why it's there? Because it works. Okay, that's why it's there. You don't leave it out. All right. This has been tested. Like, put it back in and start doing that. Oh, look, their close rate went up again. Like, don't. You also have to warn your team, like, yes, you want to make it yours, right? Own it, and you got your little art. But dude, the process is the process. You might sound a little different when you're saying it, but you're saying the same thing. You're following that. Really, really critical.
It's in the end, if you think of like a baby who is crawling, they got a big old diaper on their butt, and that baby will try to stand up and start walking. And hundreds of times, the baby is going to maybe manage to stand up, but boom, they fall on that big diaper covered butt. And do they quit? No, they keep trying it because they will figure it out over time. And it's the same thing in this sales stuff. I tell people it may feel clunky in the beginning while you're trying to figure this out. So it's going to come out somewhat robotic in your role play or whatever. However, if you embrace the failure as one step closer to getting to excellence, that's where you want to go. There is no such thing as perfection. And I tell these clients, I say, look, you've got to practice not until you get it right, but you want to practice until you can't get it wrong. And that is the whole concept of recurring training in my world. So
yeah, it's awesome. It's just the first call is hard. The second one's not as hard. It's just anything you've done in your life, look back, it was hard the first time you did it. Then you did it again and again. Now it's second nature and you do it all day long. Okay. And it's just, I have to do it to myself. I have to call people who I don't want to talk to. I just want to help them. Just hire me. You don't need to talk to me. Trust me. I can do a great job. Never works that way, right? We got to start the conversation, right? We got to get in there. So it's just so well said, Tim. This has been just fantastic. I want people, sales, this is just a really fascinating industry. You're in business. It's a must. Okay. So I just love to encourage people, and show them there's people who can get you better, right? People like you, like they can help you. They can train your people, train you if you need that, right? Like you've got to take these steps. It can change the entire trajectory of your business. You know what I mean? It can save your business when things are kind of going down, when the economy's going down. Proper sales training, excellent salespeople who are trained up will maintain the business. Maybe they're not killing it, but you're not going under because guys understand they can adapt. They're listening. They're listening to the customers. They're listening to their new objections because of the economy. I went through 08, 09, lost everything. Okay. I lost $500,000 in a day. Okay. Because no one was spending money. Okay. No one needed what I had. Okay. So there's, and I didn't have the wherewithal. I just was done anyways. But it's just. But it took me out. You know what I mean? Like literally, like if someone wanted to be in the game, you could have done it, right? So it's just important for that. So that being said, Tim, how do people get in touch with you, follow you, whatever that looks like?
Easiest way is you can email me or you can connect with me on LinkedIn. LinkedIn is at Tim Barry, Barry, executive coach. If you're going to email me, it's tim.barry, Barry, at sandler.com, sandler.com. I also have a YouTube channel. I run a free 30-minute weekly sales training. Anybody can show up at will, called Sales Lab Live. And so if you could follow me on YouTube at Sandler Training of Fort Worth, or on Substack, it's called Sales Lab Live. So
awesome. That's great. So you've got that. Everybody, think about sales. I know you all do because you got to sell if you own a business, right? But let's think about fine tuning it. Guys like Tim are out there to get you guys skilled up. It's something that'll never let you down. This is a skill that you keep for the rest of your life. This isn't just for the job. It'll cross, like Tim said, it'll cross into your life. When you have to give the car to your daughter, she's only 17. Yes, you need this. Trust me, from a guy who has some. Okay, but it's good. But Tim, thanks for all the time today. This has been absolutely spectacular, as I knew it would, even though I didn't plan anything. See how we can do this? This is
Richard,
why.
you're a genius when it comes to
Yeah.
podcasting, brother. This
All
is a
right.
lot of fun. I really appreciate you giving me your platform, and it's been just a wonderful conversation. I look forward to doing it again sometime.
Awesome, Tim. Thanks so much. And for everyone else, we'll see you on the next STS podcast. Thanks for tuning in to Sharpen the Spear podcast. If today's episode helped you think sharper, act smarter, or see new profit potential, do me a favor. Share it with a fellow home service owner and leave a quick review. Ready to find the profit hiding in your business? Head to sharpenthespearcoaching.com and book your free profit discovery call today. And until next time, keep sharpening.